Saint Patrick was a 5th century Romano-British Christian bishop and missionary from Ireland. March 17th is observed as St. Patrick's Day, the supposed date of his death. The day is celebrated as a cultural and religious holiday both within and outside of Ireland. On this video contains thought-provoking quotes and sayings from the preaching, teaching and life of St. Patrick that will inspire our thoughts and lives. Christ beside me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ within me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me. This quote suggests that Christ is not just a distant figure or historical character, but a constant and immediate presence in one's life. In other words, the quote implies that Christ is not just an external deity, but also an inner reality, a presence that permeates every aspect of one's being. It suggests that Christ is not just a belief or a doctrine, but a lived experience of the divine. The quote can be interpreted as a call to a deeper and more intimate relationship with Christ, one that goes beyond mere belief or ritual. It encourages us to see Christ not just as an object of faith, but as a living reality that is always with us, guiding us, supporting us, and inspiring us. So I live among barbarous tribes, a stranger and exile for the love of God. It suggests that he felt like a stranger and an outsider in this culture, but that he had chosen to live there out of his love for God. In other words, the quote implies that St. Patrick saw his mission to Ireland not as a burden or a duty, but as a calling and a vocation. It suggests that he felt a deep sense of purpose and meaning in his work as a missionary, and that he was willing to endure the hardships and challenges of living among a foreign culture in order to fulfill this calling. The Lord opened the understanding of my unbelieving heart, so that I should recall my sins. This quote, also attributed to St. Patrick, a 5th century Christian missionary and bishop in Ireland, describes his experience of a spiritual awakening or conversion. It suggests that he had previously been an unbeliever or a sinner, but that he had come to a new understanding of himself and his relationship to God. In other words, the quote implies that St. Patrick had a transformative experience in which he was able to see his own sins and shortcomings in a new light. It suggests that he was able to recognize the ways in which he had fallen short of God's expectations, and to seek forgiveness and redemption for these sins. Sufficient to say, greed is a deadly deed. You shall not covet your neighbor's goods. This quote, which is based on the 10th commandment in the Bible, warns against the dangers of greed and the desire to possess what belongs to others. It suggests that the desire to acquire more and more material goods can be a destructive and deadly force, both for the individual who is consumed by it and for society as a whole. In other words, the quote implies that the pursuit of wealth and material possessions can lead to a wide range of negative consequences, including social inequality, environmental degradation, and spiritual emptiness. It suggests that the true value of life lies not in the accumulation of material goods, but in the cultivation of virtues such as generosity, compassion, and humility. I am certain in my heart that all that I am, I have received from God. This quote expresses his belief that everything he has accomplished in life is due to the grace and blessings of God. It suggests that he sees himself as a humble instrument of divine providence, rather than as a self-made individual. In other words, the quote implies that St. Patrick sees his life and work as a reflection of the power and goodness of God, rather than as a result of his own personal talents or abilities. It suggests that he is deeply grateful for the gifts he has received from God, and that he seeks to use these gifts to serve others and to spread the message of God's love and mercy. If I have any worth, it is to live my life for God. This quote suggests that the ultimate purpose of life is to live for God, and that the true measure of one's worth lies in the degree to which one is able to do so. It implies that one's value as a human being is not determined by one's achievements or material possessions, but by one's relationship with God. In other words, the quote implies that the highest calling of human existence is to seek to know and serve God, and to live a life that is guided by the principles of love, compassion, and justice. It suggests that the ultimate goal of life is not to accumulate wealth or fame, but to cultivate a deep and abiding connection with the divine. If I have any worth, it is to live my life for God so as to teach these peoples, even though some of them still look down on me. This quote appears to reflect a belief in living a life devoted to serving God and sharing His teachings with others, even in the face of opposition or disapproval from those around us. The quote implies that the speaker values their own worth in terms of their ability to live a life that is aligned with God's teachings, and to use their experiences and knowledge to educate and inspire others. This suggests a sense of purpose and meaning that is rooted in faith and a desire to make a positive impact on the world. At the same time, the quote acknowledges the possibility of encountering resistance or negativity from some people, who may not share the speaker's values or beliefs. This may be seen as a reminder to persevere in the face of adversity, and to stay focused on the mission of spreading God's message and doing good in the world. Daily I expect to be murdered or betrayed or reduced to slavery if the occasion arises. But I fear nothing, because of the promises of heaven. This quote appears to reflect a strong sense of faith and courage in the face of adversity. The speaker seems to anticipate the possibility of facing extreme dangers or hardships, such as being murdered, betrayed, or enslaved, but expresses a lack of fear or anxiety about these potential outcomes. This may be due to their belief in the promises of heaven, which could include the promise of eternal life, the assurance of divine protection, or the hope of reward in the afterlife. The quote may also suggest a willingness to accept whatever fate may come, with a sense of resignation or surrender to a higher power. This could reflect a belief that one's life and destiny are ultimately in the hands of God, and that one's duty is simply to live with faith and obedience, regardless of the circumstances. I have a Creator who knew all things, even before they were made, even me, His poor little child. This quote likely refers to a belief in a higher power or God who has a divine plan for all of creation, including the speaker of the quote. The speaker recognizes that their Creator, who is all-knowing and all-powerful, has always had knowledge of everything, including the speaker themselves, even before they were born. The use of the phrase, "even me, His poor little child," suggests humility on the part of the speaker and a recognition that they are a small part of the larger scheme of things. The quote may be interpreted as an expression of faith and trust in a higher power who has a plan for their life and will guide them through difficult times.